Yes. Welcome back to the Ultimate Homeschool Community Podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Hernandez, and today we have Kimberly Bennett. She is here with us from the Homeschool Counseling Network. Welcome, Kimberly.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Kimberly and I have been in cahoots with each other talking about all the stuff going on right now in homeschooling. Because if you haven't seen it out there, it's the wild, wild west. We're going to be talking a little bit about why she's just in this mess with the rest of us. And Kimberly, can you share a little bit about where you came from? Because this was not your original background when you had your son and all of that. Can you share with the audience what got you here?
Sure, absolutely. No, my background is actually professional counseling. I've worked in juvenile justice, I've worked in private practice and mental health, and I've also worked in public education as a middle school guidance counselor. That's kind of where I first gained insights into, oh, this is how education is working. So I've sat in those IEP meetings, I've sat with parents who've been struggling to get services, and I've seen how, I'm not here to bash public education at all, but I've seen how I worked in a Title I school and I worked in a poor county when the system fails and how kids can fall through the cracks.
Mm,
Flash forward about 16 years after I left public education into private practice, and I became a homeschool mom, which is kind of never where I thought I would be. I think a lot of us feel that way. I didn't think I
yeah.
would be here. But as I became a homeschool mom and with my background in public education and knowing that my son, who has learning differences, was probably not going to get his needs met, that is when I decided to homeschool. So that is what led me to become a homeschool parent. Flash forward 2020 in the pandemic, we're all crisis schoolers, and everyone reaches out to that one friend who's a licensed counselor and a homeschool parent and goes, what do we do? First, we tell them this is not what traditional homeschooling looks like, but then we start helping them find resources. That grew into a nonprofit where I wanted to connect homeschool families with providers who truly understood the world of homeschooling.
Yes, which is where we're at now. And we are really excited. I'll just give a little sneak peek. We're excited to be doing a series about all the funds and vouchers and ESAs that are coming down the pipeline because every state seems to be going this direction. There's a huge push for school choice, and we will share just a little bit of that coming up. If you're interested in that,
Mhm.
you definitely want to go check that series out once we have it. So it is coming. Stay tuned. So talking about learning differences, and I'm just gonna get off the bandwagon here for a second. It includes more than
That's fine.
just neurodivergent and autistic. There's a lot of like subcategories that end up getting roped in with that. I know you have specifics that your son deals with that aren't typically noticed or accommodated as well as
Mhm.
others. Can you share a little bit of
Mhm.
that? We might have some parents out there that feel the same.
Sure. Our son actually has a diagnosis that's a relatively common diagnosis, but that it's common in terms of occurrence. But what's not common about it is how many medical, educational, and mental health professionals are unfamiliar with the diagnosis. It's known as developmental coordination disorder, or more commonly known as dyspraxia. It's a motor planning disorder, which is kind of like if you play the hokey pokey, you put your left arm in and your left arm out. By the time you've gotten down to your left foot, the brain is not sending that signal completely to the rest of the body, and everyone else is moving on to the next stage of turn yourself around while your child is sitting there trying to figure out where their left and their right is. So it was a common diagnosis, but it was not being commonly served or recognized. So that is what led me to do a lot of research myself as a parent. Luckily, at the time when our son was diagnosed, I was a stay-at-home mom. We had moved from Georgia to Texas, and although I was a licensed counselor there, I waited a little bit to get my license here. I spent my time at home as a mom, and that gave me the opportunity to really notice, we're not meeting these developmental milestones quite the way we should, which led me to seek out early intervention, which also led me to just fall down the rabbit hole of more information and educating myself and asking our occupational therapists and our physical therapists for any information I could get my hands on. It also led me to be an advocate.
Yes. Okay. So, and that is something that I think we find that's pretty common. Parents see they have a child with these issues, and that's really where this homeschooling counseling network comes in because Um, as a licensed professional, that's really helped shape the way you approach supporting these homeschool families. And with the network, can you share a little bit about what the network is providing for those families?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, my background as a professional counselor has provided two things for me. That's compassion and humility. I will never know it all, and I'm never going to. So I make sure to surround myself with people who do and then turn around and share the knowledge that I have. But it also is what inspired the Homeschool Counseling Network. What I found with all of those families reaching out for me to me, wanting to know, oh, you're a therapist, you're a homeschool therapist. Can you provide us services? No, I'm retired. Instead, I wanted to reach out and connect and find other professionals who could provide those services. Well, here's what I found: professionals who, of course, wanted to increase their caseloads, which is understandable, but didn't understand the world of homeschooling, or giving advice that didn't align with parents' beliefs and values, the basic tenets of why we as parents choose to homeschool at
Right.
best or at worst, putting parents in a position of concern or of fear where they were faced with, oh my goodness, is this going to be a truancy call? Is this going to be a CPS call? These are all genuine, real concerns that I
Mhm.
have heard about on Facebook, that you see the THC, which is our organization here in
Mm.
Texas, and the HSLDA have addressed. These are real issues. So, in developing the Homeschool Counseling Network, yes, I wanted to create that, a preferred provider directory where families could come and access a list of professionals who had been vetted. And here's how we vet them. Every professional who comes to join our network has to take our homeschool friendly cultural competency training. We teach them about the history of homeschool. We teach them about the modern homeschool movement and the evolution of homeschool and the modern homeschool movement. We teach them about the different styles of homeschooling, that it may look a lot different than it does in public education, because that's the point. So every provider who is in our network has to complete our training, and then they are listed in our directory. The directory and all of the resources that we generate at the Homeschool Counseling Network are 100% free for families. That was our goal. We want to remove that barrier and increase access to care.
Absolutely. Yes. I love the fact that we're providing, resources that even in the public school section, a lot of these kids are not getting their needs fully met either because, like you said, they're going misdiagnosed or undiagnosed. And so when you bring your child home, you're really able, like you noticed things about your son that you wouldn't have
Mhm.
noticed if he was at school or away from you, out of your,
Right.
out of where you're at. And so I think a lot of parents are also noticing, oh, my child's not acting or doing or up to par with all these things. And so having this resource is great. Um, what would you say are some of the most common mental health or relational challenges that you are seeing with these parents and students that you've been helping? Because we all know 2020 happened and it was like this huge regression, and now there's more students than ever that seem to be behind in some way, shape, or form.
But for parents who seek out our services, what we're seeing a lot of is, one, a lot of homeschool parents I've seen feel like they have to do it on their own. No, you don't. Just because you've agreed to take on homeschooling your child does not mean you are an island. None of us exist in isolation. It's okay to ask for support. I do all the time. One of the biggest tips I give myself and others is to surround people who know more than you do. But what we're seeing in terms of what you would call maybe the presenting problem, why are parents seeking out services? It can be anything from supporting a child who has some form of neurodivergence, whether that's ADHD or autism. It could be if they've got speech delays, it could be if they have developmental delays. It can be anything from depression to anxiety. A lot of the things that have been going on in public education stimulate a bit of anxiety and are anxiety provoking. And those are real issues and real concerns. So moving into a homeschool environment can actually help ameliorate or make it a little bit better, make it easier, help that, but then also have other support, if that makes sense. And then sometimes it's just parent burnout issues. You've got a parent who's now, there's this meme that was going around for a while that I loved, where it talked about the homeschool parent, where you're the lunch lady, you're the admin, and then you're the school taxi, or you're the school nurse. And wearing all of those hats that we choose to wear with love doesn't mean that we don't still sometimes carry some of the weight of that.
Uh-huh.
So we're here to have providers who will show you tools for how to switch those hats, have your boundaries boundaries, have some self care, and how you can find support so that you don't have to feel like you're a failure because you're not. Oh my goodness, you're not.
Yes, let's reiterate that. We are not failures even if
Mhm.
we had a bad day. Everybody's allowed to have one, maybe more than one, maybe more than 10. You will
Mhm.
get through it. It is not a walk in the park. We know choosing homeschool. Well, I didn't know choosing homeschooling wasn't going to be a walk in a park. I had this whole magical idea that I was going to get to finally be a teacher and have this wonderful little classroom, and whew, that didn't happen. But reality sets in, and that's why we have resources because we all need them, even the parents, which is a good question. Does the network also help with that parent-child relationship? Are there also going to be some resources for that? I know we're talking mainly about the child getting resources from the network. Does it also help the parents?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Everything is free, and they do need to sign up for a free parent account to get to some of the other resources that are behind a
Okay.
paywall. But you will see we've got interviews with professionals on there. I say paywall, but it is still a free account. But with resources with professionals who talk about play therapy and EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, which your family may or may not need. But the point is, we talk about different treatment styles, different therapeutic options, different services, so you can understand all of the different support services that are out there available to you, whether it's coaching, whether it's consulting, whether it's allied health, whether it's mental health, and then how you can in turn find a provider that's the best fit to you. We have a college guide for the steps of how to, that one of our providers is listed there for us. A lot of our preferred providers will put some of their free resources on there as a way to pour back into the homeschool community. So it's not just for the child, it's to support the entire family as they're homeschooling. That's the
Yeah, that's a great option for parents because a lot of times as well, you might find things. There's a ton of people now that are experts on social media, and there is some pushback from social media that you have to have actual certifications to be sharing like medical advice and stuff like that. But um, I don't know how accurate they are because people are still giving their advice. And so it's nice to know, like, hey, these are actually certified personnel that are professionals. They take courses, they do their CEUs. These are not just like some run of the mill somebody, Joe Schmo, telling you like what to do over here. And you're hoping that you're going to get accurate information. You can trust this information a lot better. Which is where it's coming into the fact that like we mentioned about coaches and consultants and providers that they have to know the homeschooling arena a little bit. How does HCN plan to really equip those um, personnel so that way they can effectively help homeschoolers? Because I know they could like know about it, but how do they actually implement that?
Sure, absolutely. Every provider who wants to join our network and have their practice listed in our directory is required to take our cultural competency training. Covers homeschool, the history of homeschooling, homeschool culture, the different styles of homeschooling, best practices for working with homeschooling, because it might take thinking outside the box just a little bit, whether that's virtual sessions or maybe partnering with a co-op or partnering with a micro school. Education is evolving, not to chase a rabbit trail that you and I are going to chase together in an upcoming segment
Yeah.
and series. We'll talk about that more. But providers need to know their community. That's just basic cultural competency. It doesn't matter if you're a coach, if you're an MD, if you're a psychiatrist and you want to be listed in our network, nurse practitioner, if you're a consultant, a former school psychologist who now provides consulting services, and even if you've been homeschooling yourself for 30 years, if you want to join our directory, you have to take this training. That lets homeschool families know, hey, they've had the bare basics at least. And it's pretty comprehensive. It's 2 hours CEU where they have to learn a crash course about homeschooling, what it means to be a homeschooler, how they can learn about the different legalities in the different states, because it is very different. And consultants work across state lines, as do coaches. But it gives families that extra layer of assurance that, hey, this provider is not only licensed to be a counselor, but they also understand the homeschool world.
Right. which is really important because even when we go to the pediatrician and they're asking, aren't you
Mhm.
guys supposed to be in school at this time? No, we're
Mhm.
homeschooled. It's like they live under a rock, and then we have to explain it
Mhm.
every single time we go for our required yearly checkup. Like, oh, how's school going? Like, we're in homeschool. It's so fun.
Mhm.
It's so fun. But that's great that they have the resource because I think a lot of times too, they don't know what they don't know. So being able to provide that, which is what the network provides, that's really a goal for the network. Am I correct? Where the network is going to allow for more education and CEUs. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. That's what we're doing. We're working on expanding our catalog, if you will, of continuing education. Most licensed professionals have to take continuing education every 2 years to renew their license. So even though the introductory course that everyone's required to take is a pretty good start, there's more information that we're always learning that we're all that's new, that's coming out all the time. So we're going to be continually creating new CEUs. One in particular called the Educators Exit Plan, and this one is catering to former educators who want to pivot from public education into the private sector. We're getting ready to branch that course out into three different, a trilogy, if you will, of series, so that we can help these educators pivot and come into the public sector and launch their practices so they can learn how to serve the homeschool community because our community is exploding. Just here in Texas, within the past week, we've had so much going on with TIFA, or the Texas Education Freedom Accounts. And I know school choice is a hot topic. We'll talk about that more in our segments we're going to do together. But it's here now. And these families, mainly the ones who are seeking out those services, are families who have special needs children that were not being served properly in public education. And they're looking for those services now out in the public sector. And this helps those families fund that support. Homeschool Counseling Network is going along right beside both of those families to provide them with the services and to equip the providers who want to serve them.
Right. And I have looked at this course. It is absolutely phenomenal, very comprehensive from a perspective of helping businesses be strategic about how they get started and what like their goals would be and their visions and missions and everything that's needed to launch a business is in there. So you have covered every single basis, which is phenomenal. And because it's so comprehensive, yes, it is I think going to benefit everyone to have it in this format where it's very self-paced, which means you can go on your own time. And from a counselor's perspective, because I know we have some that might be listening, it might be really scary coming out of the public school sector and like coming into your own business and doing all of those things. Can you maybe
Mhm.
share a little bit about how the Homeschool Counseling Network is coming alongside them and helping to give them that, like, boost of confidence.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I'm sharing my own personal experience where I've pivoted from public education into a private practice. Many years ago, I left public education and launched a private practice that was successful by year 3 with a second location. So I'm putting in my experience in there, but then also my experience in relaunching as a nonprofit. And I've got some great resources for that as well. I break it down in manageable chunks because the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. What we're doing is we are aligning ourselves with other business coaches. While I don't currently do the one-to-one coaching myself, I am considering relaunching the course with a group coaching format. If you are interested in learning about that group coaching format, feel free to send me an email at Kimberly Bennett LPC at Outlook.com. I forgot my own email address for a minute. It's been that kind of a
We'll put it
day.
in the
But
show
then I
notes,
can also
everyone,
get
so
back
that
with
way
you.
you get it
She'll
right.
put it in the show notes. If any of you are homeschool parents, you know how this can be when you're like, what was that word? It's gone forever now. But I
Yes.
also am coming alongside some some pretty strong coaches to help you. I'm familiar with a really great tutoring coach, Joanne Kaminsky. Let me give a shout out to Online Tutor there. You are wonderful at helping parents who want to
Yes.
launch micro schools, Tiffany, so you can walk alongside them there. And I'd like to give
Yes.
a shout out to Rebecca Riley of Deeply Rooted Riley, who's a former school counselor who currently coaches school counselors one to one and launching their own coaching practice out in the world with homeschoolers.
Yes, I'm super excited. We'll share a little shout out. We're going to be doing some interviews in there as well. So I will be featured there and you can see my little segment once we get it relaunched, which I'm super excited about. Because I think a lot of parents don't know what they don't know and don't know that it's an option. And once you know your options, then you can better
Mhm.
choose for your family and have better resources for your children. I mean, ultimately, our goal is that our children are supported and loved and they're safe and
Yes.
they have all the resources they need to be successful, which is why I do the podcast, which is why you do your nonprofit. I mean, it's why it's our passion behind all the things that we do, right? It's for the kids and for future impact because that's really it's shaky right now, with the economy with the way it is, with the world the way it is, um, and with the public sector the way it is, we really don't know what to expect, and giving our children maybe a little bit more of a safety net, to get prepared to go out into the world is, like, the least that we can do. Um, and that's kind of
Yeah.
where this network is coming from, right? We're banding together, and I know you are going to be listing multiple states in the directory. Can you share a little bit about how
Mhm.
it works so that we can kind of get a feel for what that's going to look like?
Absolutely. Is it possible for me to share my screen at all?
I
Is that possible?
I
If it's
can.
not, that's
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Now, for our audience listening,
Okay.
if you want to see the screen, you will have to go to our YouTube channel for those that are listening on our podcast.
Okay, let's see this meeting. Okay, share. And I think, are we good?
We are sharing.
Okay. All right. So
Woohoo.
we are sharing successful. This is that time of day when the sunlight wants to come in. So I'm going to move my chair to the left a little bit. Okay, so this is what our website looks like. It's pretty easy to navigate. When you come here, it's very easy for you to search for a provider, depending on what category you're looking for, or if you're looking for counseling and therapy services, if you're looking for an educational or psychology provider. Now, as we mentioned here, out here in Texas, with the latest is launching with all of school choice, you do have to have an IEP before you can apply for those services. So this is
Mm,
where you would find a provider to conduct the testing that you might need if you've been on a waiting list in public education and you currently haven't been tested yet and had your child's diagnosis, if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for group support and workshops, there's all the different kinds of support that you find here. We also list a calendar of events where I put in here all of the different homeschool events that are coming up. We've got the Life Skills Summit coming up in February. Let's see what else we have. This is about to be homeschool conference season. So whenever I hear of a homeschool conference that's coming in, I plug it here into our calendar. This is so families can find it, but also so providers can come and meet you and you can get to know them. We have our blog to let you know some of the other resources that we have here on our website. But I'll also show you how you can search for providers if you are looking for a provider in your area. You can come here, you find the subcategory, you search by your location, or you can search by and filter by the category of what you're seeking treatment for. And if you're not quite sure what provider's the best fit for you, you can email me. You can reach out and contact me at Kimberly Bennett LPC at Outlook.com or at info at homeschoolcounselingnetwork.com. And I will help do my best to connect you with a provider. So
yes.
this is some of the resources that we have on here as well. We also have a free resource list.
Oh, this is
These are the
awesome.
free resource lists. Yes, by state. That's where this is what it started at. This is how we originally started. with just the free resources and reduced cost resources that I could find. Well, then it grew to actual providers who are like, hey, I serve homeschoolers. Okay, let me create a different list. And then other providers who wanted to serve homeschoolers, but they kind of didn't know enough about us yet. But here's some more of the free resources. These are just some of the information that I've put together. Counseling 101 over the years. What is counseling? What's provider alphabet soup? It can be kind of overwhelming when you know your child needs support, but then trying to navigate, well, what's an LPC versus an LMFT versus a social worker? Why do I need a nurse practitioner versus an MD if my child needs medication? Does my child need medication? Are there other options? And then there's allied health professionals. I'll be honest, the first time we were referred to an occupational therapist, and I met him when I met our occupational therapist when our son was 2. I'm like, I don't really know what you do. So
Right.
I needed to understand that difference between coaching versus counseling. Both services are incredibly valuable, but incredibly different. And it's important that families understand. Counselors provide mental health services and diagnoses. Coaches work moving forward and provide solution focused guidance, if that makes sense. They're different lanes in traffic on the highway, if you will, but both
Yes.
services deserve a seat at the treatment team table, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
What is due diligence? This means, how do you find a provider to help you, and a provider that you know is a good fit? And how do you research that provider? All kinds of information
This
that
is
I put here from
amazing.
interviews with professionals.
Yes. So if you are on this website, so for those that aren't seeing, there's a whole list of video library. There's the listed library of like per state, which is amazing. So there's a lot on here and there's more forthcoming. I know, Kimberly, you have a ton of plans, several plans. What do you really envision for the future of HCN and the broader, you know, where it intersects with homeschooling and mental health? Because like you said earlier, a lot of parents maybe don't go and research resources or don't want their child to be labeled because they're afraid of truancy or DCF or CPS or whatever it is that come after them and like, oh, well, you can't have them at home because X, Y, and Z. And there has been several of those cases and incidences um, that have
Yes.
happened in states where this has become an issue and children have been taken out of homes for no reason whatsoever other than the state just wanted to rear its, big guns.
Mhm.
But we want to still have these resources because they are still needed.
You're absolutely correct. We're facing a case like that right now here in Texas. The Texas Homeschool Coalition is helping fight CPS on behalf of this family for that very reason. And we're a very free state. Texas is one of the most hands off states when it comes to homeschooling. Our regulations are pretty lax compared to even Tennessee, where you are, or even in other states. So it happens. The reason HCN was created and where our heart is for us to help heal that rift. That is what we want. I'm trying to help really. The thing that I'm most proud of with HCN is the ability to have the conversation about homeschooling and mental health. When I did my research, when I was starting to try and create this website and have it take shape and take form, there was nothing out there. We have NERI. We love NERI, National Home Education Research Institute. Been around for what, 30, 35 years. Leader in homeschool research. When no one else was studying us or even reporting us accurately, NERI stood up for that for us the same way that HSLDA has fought to keep us legally homeschooling in all 50 states and in Canada. Well, here's the thing, nobody else is studying this. In my research and trying to develop this website, I found one book, a lab at Johns Hopkins, where not a single homeschool parent happens to be a researcher there, and then NERI. So instead, what we're doing is we're currently also working on expanding those research efforts. We're trying to expand that so that we can in turn go back and inform more providers into the community on, hey, there's so much we don't know about homeschoolers. But before we can do that, we're trying to earn the trust back of the homeschool community. This is my community. Homeschoolers are my community. I've got one foot in both communities, homeschooling and mental health. And I've seen the breach of trust. So we're trying to earn that trust back. And that's going to take time. So what I'm hoping is that we'll be allowed to come to the communities, that we earn that trust back. The families will be willing to give us the feedback if they're looking for, what services are you looking for providers? Is it going to look a little different for you than it would look in traditional homeschooling or in traditional public schooling? What are your needs and how can we serve you? Come at that with complete humility as a homeschool parent and as a licensed professional.
Absolutely. It's really, I'm glad that you're doing it. It's a big foot to take on. You're chewing down that elephant, but it needs to happen because as we've seen with everything going on with the pandemics and all the other things that have happened, a lot of students are just struggling and it's going under the radar and they will end up having
Mhm.
lifelong issues from it. Unfortunately, that's just the way of the world, but at least parents can know that these resources exist and that providers can know that they can come to this place and share their resources with the community because we do need it. The homeschoolers do need this. I'd be curious and interested too how it could even impact state regulations and bills for homeschoolers to have hopefully some more freedoms and not get them taken away every other day. We're like fighting on the front lines because of these. Oh, they'll just put them back in public school. It's fine.
No, I hear you completely. As nonprofits, we're not allowed to wade into those waters
I
legally. Let
know.
me give a shout out to my nonprofit coach, Dan Johnson, of Next Level Nonprofits, who will tell me, don't do that. Don't do
Yes.
that. Leave that in the
We,
HSLDA's camp. That's what they do. But you're right. I hope that our research would come in and impact that and correct a lot of the misconceptions, because at best, they're misconceptions. At
yes.
worst, they're separating families for reasons that are completely unfounded and completely ridiculous.
Hmm.
And it just does more to heighten that distrust that our community has. Look, with all that's going on in school choice, I I'm a little nervous about it. I understand that the families who are seeking the services and why they need the funds to cover those special education services that they weren't getting when they were in public education. But at the same time, as a homeschool parent, I'm all, okay, what strings come with that?
Hmm.
What are you going to tell me I can and cannot teach my child? And that makes me mm,
Hmm.
really concerned. So, I mean, I'm a fence sitter for that, but I think it's because it's such a gray area that we're looking to change that narrative. We're looking to re earn that trust and to really give homeschool families a voice in the mental health community. We are here for you. I'm one of you. You are my community.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad you came on and you've been able to share. And like I said, we're going to be seeing more of Kimberly and myself as we discuss these ESAs and vouchers. So be sure to subscribe, and that way you can get a notice when these come out. They'll be coming out in the next couple months. We've got some guests lined up for that. And Kimberly, you gave us your email. It will be in the show notes if anybody wants to find your where is the best place to find you on social media?
I would say on my what we have a group this the it's the HCN Public Resources Sharing Group on Facebook, but you can also look me up under Kimberly Bennett LPC at Facebook. But really you can also find me at homeschoolcounselingnetwork.com. I've got links to all of my socials on there so that you can find all of my socials.
Perfect, perfect. Well, this has been such a pleasure learning and hearing about all the amazing resources that you have. And we will be sure to put all of those links in the show notes below so you can find them easily and efficiently. Because we know moms like us, we just lose everything, but they'll be here. They'll be here for all of us. All right, everyone. Happy homeschooling, and we'll be chatting soon.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Yes.